Hey guys, this is Corey with the Showdown Battle League, and we are back with the Season 4 Week 8 recap. This is going to be a shorter video than normal. We had three forfeits this week due to scheduling issues, so we'll go ahead and jump right in and start with the match of the week, which was Jack versus Dennis of the Toronto Raptors and the Wisconsin Whimsicots. Jack won this one 2-0. And this one was a very competitive match, not a lot of hacks going on. A couple of key takeaways that I had on this one. I really liked the metal burst right on. I thought that was a pretty cool move to see. And then the water absorb lantern kind of shut down Tapu Fini, made it not much of a threat. And then of course the special Cobalion getting another sweep. It's really been the kind of the main aspect of your team this season, Jack, and not a whole lot of Pokemon have been able to really touch it this season. So I wanted to let you kind of talk about this.
Yeah, this was a super intense game. And yeah, as you said, like Cobalion put in a ton of work. I brought a spec set this week because like the things he brought, like he didn't have like any steel resist, so I was able to sort of spam Flash Cannon, and put in a lot of work with that. It was just a really intense back and forth game. A lot of like sort of predictions on both of our sides. Like I sort of messed up with the metal burst. Like I caught him on the first time, but then he went for the superpower and killed Rhydon. Then later on, like there was like the pursuit on Shadow Sneak on Spiritomb where I managed to stay in on the Shadow Sneak, and then he went for pursuit as I knocked him out. So there were a lot of mind games there. In terms of like hacks, he missed the Thunder Wave on Cobalion, which was definitely big. Then he also got the Moonblast crit on Lantern, and I was a rest talk set, so if he hadn't crit that, I wasn't able to get back to full health and like keep checking things. So I'd say like we both had like one instance of like hacks on either of our sides, but I don't think it was like super major overall. And like, yeah, it was like a really back and forth game, especially in the late game. Like it was one of those ones where you don't really know until like the last turn pretty much who was gonna win. So it was really like intense and fun game to play.
Yeah, those are always the best games, is when it's not a clear-cut victory there. So Carlos and Brian, you guys want to add anything to this one?
No, I think Jack got everything here. It was a really interesting game to watch, really back and forth, and it was all just a matter of prioritizing and keeping hit points on each of the Pokemon, and then Jack ended up pulling up the win.
Yeah, I have to say, you can definitely tell these are two coaches who will be going to the playoffs. They are all the mods they're using very well. Dennis with the Tapu Fini, it's crazy how bulky it is. Some of these new mods and his Buzzwole, they're terrifying, and I'm excited to see how he uses these in the playoffs. And same with Jack, his Cobalion, like you said, I think it's 20-1 so far this season. If you had asked anyone before the season about Cobalion going 20-1, no one would have believed you. No matter Jack being the coach with it or anyone, he's used Cobalion just so fantastically. And this match, I loved how he used Mega Altaria late game, and they just continue to both of them make their way towards playoffs. And I'm excited to see if this will be a matchup we'll see in playoffs and get a nice rematch.
Yeah, so that was definitely a good game, worthy of match of the week. And next up, we'll do the play of the week, which was in Brian and Hans's game. Brian got the setup with the Shift Gear Magiarna and ended up going, was it 6-0 with that one, Brian?
Yeah, that was 6-0. Good differential gain for me. I'm going to talk about this game for a bit. I mean, what I really want to just note is that my Heracross and my Magiarna just had really great matchups, and they've been my aces for my team pretty much this entire season. So I was able to put in work with both of them coming in on the Umbreon, and then his team was just really weak to Magiarna in the late game. So I just looked for an opportunity to set it up, and then I did, and then the game was pretty much over from there.
So a couple of takeaways from this game. I really liked the right towards the beginning. You had the epic battle of the bugs setup going on, where you had Mega Pinsir squaring off against Mega Heracross. These are one of my favorite megas, each one of those. so that was pretty cool to see. But other than the shift gear Magyarna, one thing I did notice that was kind of a potentially pivotal thing was the flinch on Slowbro from Hydreigon. I think that was something that could have been a problem if that wouldn't have happened.
I actually don't think that mattered too much. I was actually especially defensive hydrate, so even if you had Ice Beam, I don't think you would have done too much damage, and I also could have just roosted off the damage and still taken on the Umbreon either way, so I don't think it was too big a deal in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, we just like to think for Hans's sake that it could have been a game changer.
Yeah.
I really love the use of a few things on his team. You mentioned Magirna, and obviously they got the 6-0. I like how Mega Heracross has been like bulky in a lot of weeks. Like I know I said last week for Scalpede, so it can take hits as well as be a really good wall breaker. But two things I really loved on his side was his use of Rotom Wash and that pickup in general, because just being able to spam Volt Switch allows him to keep initiative on his side and ensure that he can like take advantage of more of the passive things on Hans's team. And the favorite thing I loved from him this week was actually the Hydreigon set. I used it before in another league, and I love the Stall Breaker Roost Taunt Spadef set. It's so good because Umbreon comes in and you think Umbreon could beat it, then you use like Toxic and then you taunt it and it can't do anything. And then outside of that, he doesn't really have much that switches into Dark Pulses anyways, and he can stall out a lot of things. So I thought like Hydreigon was used really well this week. I think it's like a super cool set, and Taunt's just such an amazing move in this format.
So with that being said, we'll move on to Carlos against Cody. Another 6-0 this week. This was a huge win for Carlos. Not a whole lot going on here, really. I think that Carlos just outplayed Cody in all aspects. And that's really all I have to add. Carlos, you want to add anything on this one?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's getting close to the wire here for playoff chances for a lot of people. With both of us, we were pretty much both at the very edge. Whoever won this, we had a chance, and the loser is pretty much eliminated. And so, in this matchup, he didn't play very well. It looks like he's having an off week, and his team building was a little iffy at the beginning. There, his Venusaur, he sort of just let it die to my Delphi. And after that, he just didn't really have anything, because Venusaur was, just like in our week 1 matchup, Venusaur was the thing that took on a lot of my team. I had no way to kill it. And this week, it once again would have been a big threat to my team. And once that Venusaur went down, it sort of just went downhill from there, because the Venusaur was his big threat in the match. And to have that go down turn 3 or 4, it just lost all his momentum right away. And then he just sort of couldn't really do much, and like Corey said, it just sort of was the match.
So next up, we'll do Suko against Ryan. I think on this one, Ryan kind of turned his season around a little bit, started playing more like he did in the beginning of the season. One thing I did want to note is I think that Suko's inexperience with league play kind of showed this week. He made some questionable plays and sacked off some things that he probably shouldn't have when he did. And Ryan, being a little more experienced in this format, kind of capitalized on all of that and made some good predictions and just kind of dismantled the team. Ended up picking up the 5-0 win, which is pretty big. What do you guys think on this one?
I don't get a lot of the plays that Suko made, and I get that he's inexperienced, but I don't know why when he was clearly going for Scald on like Nidoqueen, he switched into Piloswine and then let it die. And then like he brought in Haxorus on Donphan when usually Donphan's going to beat Haxorus. And then he went for Superpower when Ryan has no Dragon Resist, and he has like no, but then he went for Superpower when he has no Dragon Resist. I don't know why didn't you go for like Dragon Claw, maybe at Air Rage. And then he went for like the Sludge Wave on Hofgrigus with Nidoqueen. I don't know, there was a lot of plays on his side that I don't really think made a lot of sense. So I think maybe just a bit of an inexperience there. And I know Ryan, he's been doing fairly well this season. So I think he just kind of, as Corey said, capitalized on a lot of those plays. I thought the sock set was pretty cool, having Salak Berry. Like maybe late game, if he had weakened up some members of his team, that could have actually been like pretty solid. But outside of that, I think Ryan just did everything he needed to get a solid win.
Yeah, and this close to playoffs, a solid. I mean, a win is a win, but a solid win's definitely going to help. And with Red Division being as competitive as it is, it's going to help him out. And finally, we will move on to Jarrett against Tony. This was a 3-0 victory for Jarrett. It was a very slow-paced match that was very drawn out. One thing that I did pick up from this, and I feel like most coaches, honestly, this season are having this problem. Jarrett uses Suicune very well, and he walls super well with it. And there's really not a lot that anybody can do about it, to be honest. I mean, we've seen it shut down a lot of teams this season. And kind of on the flip side to that, for a first-time coach this season, Tony is very good at team building. He doesn't have as many wins as some of the other coaches, but I feel like he's got some of the most creative sets. And as far as team building goes, he builds them to counter the opponents, and most of the time it works or comes very close to working.
Yeah, I think a big deal breaker for this game was like Tony just needed like maybe a little more experience in how to handle the way Jarrett was playing the Suicune. Like just switching back and forth between the Melodic and the Ferrothorn using the Leech Seed to get a little bit of recovery on that would have helped him a lot more. He wouldn't have run out of PP. He would have still had PP left to kill the other Pokemon with Melodic, and then eventually Suicune would have run out of rest. But I mean, this is like a really rare late game situation, so it's hard to get practice in it and know what to do in these situations. So perfectly understandable not knowing how to deal with it.
Yeah, and I think for again for a first-time coach, I feel like he handled that situation pretty well, and he was going up against the number one ranked team, and I feel like a 3-0 loss isn't too bad, and that's respectable. So I think if Tony decides to stick around next season, I think he's going to be one that we're going to kind of want to watch for. He's got the creativity in his sets, and he thinks outside the box, definitely. And I think that, combined with some more experience in the league play, I think he's going to be a threat going forward. Any of you guys want to add anything more to this week before we move on to next week?
You can go, Carlos.
I mean, I guess one way you could look at this match is if maybe he saw my match at the beginning of the season. That was part of the way. That could be one way he looked at it when going into this match late game. He saw how I dealt with it with the grass type versus the water type, and he didn't think about rocks. That could be where he got the experience with it from that. Maybe just not thinking about the rocks and switching around. And yeah.
I was just gonna say that I liked sub nasty plot Thunderous on Jarrett's side. I thought that was pretty cool. It could have capitalized on and rode him after an overheat, Ferrothorn, depending on his sets. So that was cool. And yeah, if you had more checks for like Calm Mind, Suicune, maybe like Dragon Tail, Melodic, something like that, that would have been better. But it just definitely like small things you could patch up. And I guess the final thing I have is I think X-Blood is really cool, and I'd like to see it be brought more because I think like it's very underrated as a wall breaker. It can really punch holes in a lot of teams.
I thought the sequence between Whirlpool, Melodic, and Whirlpool Empoleon was hilarious because they both had Whirlpool.
Yeah, this was a good match. Not quite match of the week quality, but it's always interesting to see how people handle long extended gameplay like that. So with that being said, we'll move on to kind of looking forward to week 9. Couple of games that I'm looking forward to watching is going to be Ryan and Frank, and Chabin and Josh. I think those will both be some pretty good ones. Kevin and Christian is kind of a throwback to season 1. They're battling it out for silver with Brian, and I think the Brian and Carlos game will be good too. It's always fun to see former playoff contenders go at it.
And you skipped my game of the week, which would be Dennis and Jared playing against each other. They're both like good contenders for the top spot. And Jared's only loss this season is to Dennis, so getting a rematch will probably be good for him. And it'll also just be a really fun match to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I was coming back to that one, but yeah, I definitely think that's game of the week potential next week.
I'm looking forward to Ryan versus Frank as well because I think Ryan sort of like proved himself last season getting top 4 and beating Noah in playoffs. Like he did really well last season, but Frank's kind of been on the rise this season. So that'll be like a really cool match to watch. And then also, yeah, Dennis Jarrett is going to be like a really great one. And then there are a few people I think like I really look forward to Brian Carlos because I know Carlos in his current position, he has to like do really well in the back half of the season in order to get a playoff spot. So this will be like a big match for him, and I think it'll be like really cool to see.
One thing that I'm really excited about is we're almost done with the season. We're in the last part of the season, and I don't believe any playoff game is clinched yet, or any playoff spot is clinched yet. Blue, Jack, you're close in blue, but Hans can still take it since we're doing wins weighting over differential. Red is really close. Frank has a pretty good shot of winning gold. But red could be anybody. Blue is still close enough to be anybody. So it's always nice to see. I don't think anyone has clinched a spot yet, and it's always nice to see that come down to the wire.
Yeah, because I know I can still. There are 4 games left, and I just need to tie it. Technically, I could win out and tie Jarrett still and wins if he loses out. So, yeah, it's always interesting.
Mm.
So anyone have anything else they want to add to this week before we finish up? All right, with that, that is the Week 8 recap, and we'll see you guys next week for Week 9.